think I need to say okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so um, for me, the biggest thing has always been about discovering a path of inner knowing. And so when I was living in Brazil, I spent a lot of time in the forest and in the jungle learning about the sounds. So I spent a lot of time alone, listening. Obviously, I did a lot of plant medicine as well, but there was also a lot of times that I didn't. So I learned to find that harmony in terms of integrating the medicine, but also then listening to the actual medicine, which is the one that we have inside of us. And so the real medicine I've always this was like, how do I get closer to this feeling? And so when I would sit in the jungle and I would hear these deadly creatures walking around me complete um um with complete solitude and no fear, I started to realize that I was so interconnected to the feeling of their exchange and experience. And as a result, I started to feel my energy strengthen, knowing that their energy there. And so the more that I heard, the brushes of the trees or the slitheries or like whatever, the wind or the butterfly, I started to feel it in me. And this started to become really profound. And I was almost like my mind was going crazy, but my body felt calm.
Mm.
So I was able to actually take the mind out of the equation and allow my body to overtake. And it was like surrender, allow yourself, if this thing is gonna jump on you or not, it's you. So it doesn't matter. So it's a complete ability to surrender. And, over the course of time, I've done allow my mind to let go multiple times, whether it's in free diving or different ceremonies. But that was the first moment. Those were the first moments in Brazil of learning that. And then when I went back to Mexico, I invited a lot of people back to Brazil with me. Uh, and that's, how actually when I went back to Tulum, I went to a Dr. Joe Dispenza and I wanted to understand the science of all of these things that I was experiencing. And I didn't understand it, but I didn't get what was happening because I
Mhm.
was never educated or taught or understood. So the 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 mind was so powerful and so strong and so wanting to keep me in the old paradigm, but my
And
heart was sorry?
I wanted to add something. Also, many of us are in our minds because it's a safety mechanism. It's the only way we can be safe. Often when actually something has happened to the body, that means it's not safe to live in the body.
Hmm, beautiful. And that traumatic experience
Yeah.
of maybe not of even this experience of this lifetime, but it could have been of multiple old ancestral times. It was
Mhm.
bringing me back to my heart, but my mind kept wanting to like say, but it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Could this be true? Could this be true? And I was starting to actually attract powerful mirrors like this
Mhm.
beautiful man, Sagitas, who just joined us. So that's when
Trying
I
to get
met
through.
Sagitas.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Sagitas, you want to say hello?
You
Yep.
there?
Hello there.
Hola.
Hey, Rick. I'm
Say
walking
Yeah,
the
hello.
dog.
so Sagitas, this is Gemini. Gemini.
Yeah, we have
Is it?
met
We had a lovely
already.
long conversation the other day.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
How are
Amazing.
you two doing?
Super blessed, bro. We're just talking about this discovery that we find in ourselves to go on this path.
So I'm curious, do you now know the science of what you're describing? Because if not, I would love to share what that is, because it's a big part of
Please.
the work I do.
I think it's important that you share it with the because I know you have a lot of wisdom in the language, in the way that you get to, yeah, please. I would love to hear it from your language patterns.
So the term that describes when we experience our felt sense is one of the terms that's used, and that's what you're describing. And in order to do that, we have to be able to experience what's called our interoception. So there's interoception, which is noticing sensation in our body, feeling intuition, being able to receive not through our ears and our eyes and our kind of our brain, but actually through the body. And when we experience things outside, it's called exteroception, right? So there's these two elements in our biology. And for me, one of the most fascinating things is, if we look back historically, all the indigenous peoples lived life through their interoception, not their mind, right? Because if you didn't, you wouldn't survive. You would not be able to, pick up something on the breeze ahead of you, which was, the sense that an animal was maybe ahead of you or behind you that could have been a threat, right? You had to live in all of your senses, and it's often referred to as the seventh sense, intuition being the sixth sense. But actually it's really our primary sense. It's how we should be operating. And most of us who've grown up in the Western world have been what I call headucated, because we lived, we are that way when we're children, and then we're put into the traditional education system where we're forced to sit still and stop noticing these other senses and focus on the mind. And then you throw in, some traumas to that as well. And you're in an environment often too where you're not able to listen to your body, right? So we start to have this regimented structure to our day of specific hours and limitations. And as a consequence, we start to move out of interoception. And it's something that, I've seen time and time again. I don't think I shared this necessarily, but I spent a year and a half also living in the Amazon jungle, listening deeply from my tambo to the outside world, and cleaning, the songs of the Shipibo and the Yawanawa, all the Ikaros. They are designed to clean the body, right? Limpia, limpia mi cuerpo, limpia, limpia mi corazón. It is designed to actually bring us back to our senses so that our soul can download and we can live from that place. And so I've seen so many souls come through those places and clean up this disembodied way of being, where everyone's oriented to their head and their ego and their fears, and it's just a giant mess in humanity from my perspective. But to really have a deeper understanding of that, and what's really fascinating to me is even like the Vedic texts, the ancient practices of yoga were designed to expand your capacity for interoception, to live in an embodied, connected way. And so I think a lot of people are, seeking embodiment. They use the term, but they don't necessarily understand the depth of what it actually means, and that there is a true science to it. And if you start to look into interoception, you will start to see how our interoception can get completely shut down, where we're numb and we don't have access, or it can be dialed up the other way and we're like hypersensitive, we feel everything, neither of which is, optimal, right? And so sounds to me like you recovered your interoception. Good job.
I love listening to you. Wisdom.
Trust me, I've like inhaled about 2,000 books in my lifetime, possibly more. So I've got a lot of stuff rattling around inside here. But not just that, this is really my life's work too. This I
Nerd alarm, nerd alarm.
yes, exactly. I am 1,000% a complete nerd.
In the most
Yeah,
important way, though. It's like these things are very important to identify and be able to communicate effectively. And so, identifying, I can only express it in my own language because of my own experience. And the fact is that I love being able to do that because from my experience, it allows people to resonate in whichever way they can. And then ultimately, it allows brilliant minds like yourself to share the wisdom of all these beautiful ancient texts that come through it all as well. And so it's nice to be able to hear it in a different context as well, because uh sometimes in the past I would think that this is just like my own shit. And then you realize, hold on, this is like such ancient philosophy. It's so perfect. It's so beautiful. It's so amazing. And it's actually, discovering the path of awakening and then stepping fully into a responsible identity if we choose to, because, people can choose not to as well, of course.
yeah. And when I met you, Eric, it was one of the first things I noticed about you was your incredible level of presence. And when people are not embodied and they are not living through their interoception, they are very not present. It's actually been quite a shock for me because I've just left living on Koh Phangan for 7 years, where so many people there are constantly doing, I mean, it's kind of a joke on the island, like everyone is doing embodiment practices. Every class, every day, there's everything from, ecstatic dance to sound healing to kirtan to yoga to I mean, I could go on. And I've just been walking around here the last couple of days, and I'm like, wow, no one is in their bodies. I don't even see people's souls here. And it's really
Mhm.
scary, actually, to re-enter a world where that is just not there. And it's fascinating to me when I see someone who's like embodied and soul connected. It's like beacon. Okay. How did you get there? Because most of us have it completely shut down through our education system, our cultures, our family systems, and or our traumas. So yeah, I was very happy to meet someone, and I feel there are many others in this community too who are kind of on this path, right?
Yeah, and I believe that that's also one of the key responsibilities that we have, is by going into these places that it is shut down and shine like these beacons, right? Like these lights around the world in different places, because in the past we'd be suppressed, right? So it's now time to just keep expressing, opening up, sharing, coming together on these calls, and then like really uh nurturing each other, and then being able to go back out and continuing to shine. Because I think this is, I mean, for me, this is important, to nurture each other, because I find that in a family or in a community or an environment where we can actually take care of each other and have these meaningful conversations, that are really the depths of where we coming from, allows us to then go out there and have even more conviction in the way that we choose to show up, versus again needing to prove anything. It's just who we are.
Yep. And I mean that is also scientifically acknowledged that we are both radio receivers and radio transmitters. And so when we're um in fact, actually, I forget the statistic, but there's an enormous amount of information that is transmitting between individual physiology. So you walk into a space and without speaking, your body is already reading what is happening in that person's nervous system and their physiology. It's unspoken, but it's very apparent, right? Because we walk into places and we're like, nah, nah, nah. Oh, yes, that one. And it makes no sense. The mind is not in that process. It's an embodied reading of the other person. And so yeah, it creates a strong resonance.
Mm.
Um, I'm curious how, you've been on quite the journey, right? I don't know your whole story. I have a couple of snippets of it in our short meeting. But I'm really curious, I'm going to take a wild guess that some of the people that you were kind of surrounding yourselves with back in the day are different to the people you're surrounding yourself with now and the people that you attract into your life. Do you have any thoughts on that or observations now that you're a light beacon?
I think the biggest discovery that I've had is allowing yourself to not please others. So the stronger that my internal knowing became, the more I triggered people and even communities as a whole. So I would actually get pushed away from a lot of people because of the discovery of challenging their principles. And I would ask why and what for. And because I had these discoveries and curiosities, in the past, people would shun me away or push me away. And I would ask myself, okay, well, what can I do better? Because this is ultimately my responsibility. And so what I discovered as I went deeper into myself is that it was actually a limitation of their principles and their integrity and not my own, because I was holding a standard of outstanding level where I chose to operate in that principle, and others would allow themselves to be part of something that wasn't. And so it gave me the ability to attune. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's saying that my principles were my decision based off of the way that I believe that outstanding and excellence looks like, and theirs were theirs. And it's when I look back at history and I looked back at how these societies, communities, people chose to operate, they recognized patterns and then still chose to adopt them and duplicate them or repeat them. I recognize patterns, chose to utilize them and create new ones to make it better, to create a better solution, so that we didn't want to repeat the same patterns, because our predecessors have created a lot of limitations and passed on a lot of traumas onto us. And if we choose to operate in the same level of paradigm, then we cannot change that level of consciousness from that level of paradigm. We must change that from a new state of awareness and a higher level of consciousness so that we can actually evolve and grow. And so for me, when I was asking these questions or I would trigger people, I realized that it was their decision or distinction to stay what's most comfortable versus the opportunity or the element of wanting to grow. And if I'm not growing, I'm dying. So I have a must in my life that I'm constantly and there's never ending improvement. And I'm always looking to everything and everyone around me as a teacher. And if something isn't resonant in my direct experience, or I don't choose to speak up because I'm not asking a question for the space around me to grow, then I'm not showing up with the eloquence of absolute outstanding excellence. If I allow something to create limitation for the environment that I'm in, that means that I'm creating the limitation because I'm in the space. So in that coherence or incoherence, I was like asking questions, I would challenge. And when enough people say to me, you're too much, you're too intense, you're too this, I said, well, that's your limitation. So it's time for me to go to somewhere where I'll be appreciated. And if that means that I have to be by myself, then that's okay. Because ultimately I do trust that the right energy will attract. So does that make sense? I know it's a long-winded answer, but
It's great. It's comprehensive. Yes, and I think that and again, my observation is that very few people are comfortable truly standing in their own truth. We're all hardwired to be accepted by society, accepted by a group, and it takes a very strong will and a strong sense of self to be able to truly stand in your truth if the crowd is going that way, even if they're going the wrong way. If your soul, if your alignment is such that it is clear to you that actually that group of people are in collusion with something that is unhealthy, destructive, toxic, is in denial or dissociation, most people cannot stand on their own. Most people will go with the crowd, because that underlying mode of people pleasing is so rife in our society. It's fascinating to me. It's one of the things I work with my clients, and in my own journey, when I dismantled my people pleasing, I started to use the mantra, I don't need people to like me. It doesn't mean I'm going around being an asshole, right? But really owning that, really acknowledging that when you're the hollow bone that we talked about earlier, and you are receiving your own inner guidance and trusting it, it is often going to take you way off in the other direction. And if my experience has been that there's sufficient evidence in place that whenever I do that, it has a bigger benefit. Whenever there's a little niggling somewhere in my body that's letting me know I'm not really aligned with this. I'm kind of either putting up with something or pretending along, which I actually used to do a lot of in my younger years. And actually being in a place where I'm like, if I feel that instantly, it's like, okay, that's an embodied no, I need to walk away. And not necessarily explain why, because then sometimes it gets sticky. Sometimes one does explain why. But I really appreciate what you said there about, when you are operating from a place of strong principle, a really powerful value system, and you're oriented towards constant and never ending improvement. Tony Robbins, thank you. Then you have to be able to do that, right? And it's super challenging because let's say if it's in a work situation, a lot of people have the fear of, oh well, if I say no to this, where's the money going to come from? Or if we're in a relationship that we know isn't quite right, and oh, I'm going to be alone. So it requires so much mastery to really actually be able to live that way. So congratulations. And yeah, I think that, again, this is not something that we're necessarily learning in the Western world, right? If we look at social media and influencers and celebrities, it's not really what we're learning in this environment. So again, I'm assuming this is something you learned from elders in the Amazon, or individuals like Tony Robbins. I'm really curious, how did you gain that kind of orientation to life?
So, one of the things that Tony always says is success leaves clues. And I mean, he leaves clues everywhere. If we choose to follow them, we can follow them, through his stories, but also through his books. And then in those clues, you meet other people that he's met, and then you get to go down deeper down the rabbit hole. And so I chose, and I continue to choose to discover the depths of these role models that have walked before us. And again, it's not just Tony Robbins. It's a lot of prophets and leaders that have walked this planet way before us. And there's books, scriptures, lots of different ways that we can discover these inherent ancient wisdoms. And so whether it was spending time with the elders, learning, and then feeling, or reading the books and identifying the knowledge of it, but then capturing them together and realizing, wow, okay, so now that I'm completely aware of these experiences within myself, it's no longer a belief, because a belief is a poor substitute for an experience. Once it's an experience, it's who you are, it's who you've become. And so now for me, it was like, okay, what do I choose to do now that I know that I have this feeling, and I know that I can operate from this place of knowing what's the action that I'm going to take every moment in my life. And that action needs to come from a place of complete inner congruence. And it's interesting because for me, the true influencer or influence is actually the person that you influence within yourself first. As a result, that you create intimacy, because into myself, I can only see you if I choose to really operate from that inner knowing. And then as a result, I can see the truth of the soul in front of me always. And it's interesting how you say, because I could walk into the room and not say one word, and it's like a person will completely confess everything that they want to me, and I didn't even say a word.
I have no idea what you're
So
talking about.
yeah.
I want to ask you something. You said that you are completely okay with being alone. And I know that that's not true for most people. Can you expand on that?
Well, there's a very ancient saying that, and it's an ancient saying. I can't quote it exactly, but I never remember the exact quote, but because it's maybe it's now my quote. I don't know. But the greatest historic belief
Own
that we
it,
can
it's
have,
fine.
yeah,
All right.
yeah, the greatest historic belief that we can have is that we're actually here alone. And recognizing that we are actually here alone, the simple written word is written all one.
Mhm.
So that aloneness is all oneness. And so what that means is that when we're here in our own presence, everything and everyone around us is a reflection of our inner being, our inner knowing. And the choice that we get to experience is actually choosing to spend time with the people that we want, because they are the reflections of our inner being and our inner knowing. So that aloneness or all oneness, when we are with ourselves, we can actually reflect to everything around us whenever we're in nature, or uh, even with a group of people. We can learn to listen to the wisdom of what's coming through somebody else, because as a result, we're listening to our inner being by recognizing the mirrors. So whether that's, again, nature, spirit, animals, or one person or thousands of people, these are all reflections of our inner power. It's an internal game. It's always been an internal wavelength of showing up in the world versus an external circumstance or environment that influences our behavior. Does that make sense?
100%. And I just want to add something to that. When we've learned to listen in different ways, because there is so much more information than what we can just hear and see, right? So my experience, having done really, really, really deep practice to be in relationship with plants through plant dietas, for example, and even trees. It's from my side, it's not just a reflection. It's like I can listen to the trees. I can
Mm.
be in a relationship and actually receive knowledge from the trees and from the plants. So uh, when we have come out of this kind of ego mind that is so often cultivated in Western society, and we live through the place of, you know, in Shipibo, it's Aini, it's right relationship. When we're in right relationship, when you look at the way that the Q'ero live from the direct ancestors of the Inca, we're never alone, actually, because the mountains, the clouds, the rivers, the oceans, the birds, everything is actually in connection with us. We're in relationship to all of those things. And when we really, really, really learn to listen, um, then it's impossible to feel alone. Impossible. So that's good. It's just like I'm curious. Sagitas, do you have anything to chime in here?
I love the impossible. Like it's like that's what I've been also realizing lately. When people are used to say like in my presence, I'm not connected. I cannot connect. I'm like, fundamentally we cannot be not connected.
Mm.
The illusion, even the separation we create for ourselves, is complete illusion, and we all one, and yeah, is it's cool. Like yeah, it's a lot. You touch so much here in this call. It's a Sunday blessing, so that's what's happening. Need to
Exactly.
shift.
We're talking
It's
about God today.
yeah. it's that chaos and order. Like like that was coming through what you're talking about. It's yes or no. It's a yin and yang. It's on and or off. Like it's kind of like it feels the life is it's guided by yeses or no. Like if we feel yes, we go there. If we feel a no, we don't. And the minimizing the noise of that information of whatever external allows us to choose faster, I guess, if there is such thing, like speed or so. Yeah, it's I experiencing something here in when I moved back to the apartment, just that chaos and order. So it's been very out of order in some way, everything here in this apartment. So um, I'm selecting out a lot of noise. I've been carrying out stuff for 3-4 days now, out of apartment, cleaning with a toothbrush. Like thank you, like going like feng shui kind of, but
Uh-huh.
following the feeling, what stays and what's not, and where it has to be. And it's just gonna be so beautiful. I already see my home where I grew up coming out in this beauty, where before it was not even possible to see through all the stuff, all the books, booklets, like all. So I'm grateful for this experience. And that's what I feel like it's connecting everything I do here is connecting me also to Bitcoin. It's chaos and order. It's kind of like chaos and order. Chaos and order. Where is order? Okay, so the order needs to like and what's his name? Jordan Peterson kind of put that in my head. The way he says like clean your bedroom before you, or like take care of your bedroom before taking care of the world. And that now I'm starting getting that, now I'm starting to like, okay, that's
Sure.
how it is.
Yeah.
Like
I just had a
yeah,
no, go on. Carry on.
yeah, you go.
No, I just wanted to add to that. I just had a really interesting experience. So my plan, right, was to enter into this vision quest about 5 days ago. And I thought, oh, I'll just spend 2 nights in a hotel. I can kind of like sort through my admin and clean up some loose ends. And, my teacher's holding space for this for me said, it's kind of short, but okay. Anyway, those 2 days turned into 5 because really I realized, wow, I've been on the road for nearly 2 months. There's kind of like chaos has ensued in my life, right? There's just so many untended to pieces. And then some things are happening in my life where I realized actually I need to return to the UK sooner than I planned. So, but really, again, listening and realizing, oh, this is part of the quest. This is the preparation. It's cleaning up my life. It's creating a container, right, for the work to happen. And one of the things I often quote is nature can only fill a vacuum, which means you have to create space. And most of us are so oriented to just cramming things into the silence or cramming things into the space, but nature can't enter into something that's already full. So actually that work, it's so deep, it's so profound to prepare the space in some way. In fact, that's my mission this evening, is to clean my van and make sure everything's very clean before I enter into this journey. I'm curious though, do you feel alone in this? Because you're kind of sounds like in an apartment by yourself, just on this journey.
I'm having a blast.
Ah, great.
No, I don't feel at all like I kind of I haven't like I don't even want some help yet,
Mm,
like
yeah,
someone to be a yet. Like I feel like it's my
your
thing
project.
to do. And I have a friend arriving tomorrow, so it feels like also I'm preparing for that he's gonna help me to clean different kind of stuff where it just needs to be maybe cleaned, and or I'm gonna make it before he arrives. But I don't feel alone. Um, no, I have like a lot of characters here. So um like this, for example, one sitting here. and observing the
Wait,
fruit,
you're
observing the
Cinderella.
fruit.
You've got like Disney animals helping you. Hang on a second.
What did you say?
They said you're like Snow White. You've got Disney animals flying in around and helping you. Do they come to life, these creatures?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like my mom is collecting dogs for many years, and you know, she collected a lot of like that's the wall, right? So it's like
Oh, wow.
and the whole apartment was like this. I already carried maybe big 5 bags out of apartment, all kind of this fluffy stuff. And I'm choosing to keep only those which I also like. Same with the dogs and all kind of, you know, we have like a different plates and cups and stuff, and there is so many of that is very low quality, which is reminds me noise, which is out of order, created from plastic, or you know, like things like that. So I'm leaving only those that is kind of closer to handmade, and when I clean it doesn't take away the color, or you know, so I could clean it very properly again and again and again, so it can stay clean, and it's not going to be damaged by cleaning. Same with all kind of plates. We have this Japanese plates. It's been standing here for probably 40-50 years. I don't know if we ever used. So now I'm gonna pull them out, and I'm gonna like, I'm looking for my mom to come here, and it's gonna be so there's this apartment. It has a lot of sound stuff, but it's been covered with a lot of noise. So I'm cleaning this. I don't know what I was answering, but yeah, look at this. So all these shelves was like overloaded with stuff, and now I'm like, hello. So this is our like, it's gonna be like a dog museum. That's what my mom always dreamt about, to have a dog museum.
I
So
love it.
I'm gonna make her a dog museum in the home. You know, like,
Oh my God.
yeah. Look at these two. Like, looks like a mirror, huh?
Yeah, they look like they're on ice. This is great.
And this one, yes,
Kennel? It's a dog kennel.
it's a dog. It's a dog. Yeah.
This is gorgeous.
So I have no time to be lonely. You know, to answer your question, it's yeah.
Sagitas, I just want to share how much I love you, brother. You're such an amazing brother and friend. I'm just so grateful that you're in my life. Without your just your beingness, man, you're just such an incredible soul, bro. I just love it. Love watching you being yourself, and love yeah, the other day when I said, you know, your grace and wisdom and playfulness is so important. It gives me so much spirit, and I just really want to acknowledge that wisdom in you, brother. It's amazing to observe. So thank you. I want to just really end off really with a quick prayer, if I don't mind, because I know we have to finish, because I just got another meeting. So I invite us all to just breathe into our hearts and really feel the magic of the heartbeat, the intention, the grace, the wisdom that continues to come through us every single moment, every single day. Thank you for beloved Gemini and Sagitas for being here, allowing to be these mirrors of compassion and grace, but also most importantly, wisdom and principle. The ability to see that, you know, we are never alone, that we're actually always here reflecting each other, and the ability to always see that our greatest asset is inside. It's always been, and our home is where the heart is. I love you both so much. And
thank you.
thank you so much for being you both. You are incredible beings. So much wisdom. And I can't wait to see you both very, very soon.
Same.
I hope. Right back at you. Okay.
Ciao.
Ciao.
A beautiful, blessed